Barakatin Yahweh, Barakatin Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadesh. Greetings to the hopeful elect. Alright, family, let the Spirit led me to continue with the book of Ezekiel. So, we're going to leave off to the following chapter, which is chapter 42. It's the chambers of the priests. These next few chapters are pretty challenging because there's a lot of, measurements and math and whatnot. But, like I said before, nothing's easy with Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. And, we welcome the challenges, to present, the Most High's, the word, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai's word to our fellow brethren. So, what I'm gonna do, if anything that I learned from yesterday's video is that I guess in this next chapter, chapter 42, the chambers of the priests, I'm just going to break down each verse after I read them, best to my ability. Salaki brothers if I come up short in any way, but I'm willing to take on the challenge. So let's proceed and get edified. Okay. Then he brought me. It says the chambers for the priest. It's chapter 42, right? The chambers for the priest. Then he brought me out into the outer court by the way towards the north, and he brought me into the chamber which was opposite the separate courtyard, and which was opposite the building towards the north. I guess after the general specifics of the sanctuaries were given, the prophet, I guess, was taken into the outer courts, or the 500 cubic square towards the north to view the rooms. That's what I'm getting after this. Now, verse 2, facing the length, which was 100 cubits, the width was 50 cubits, was the north door. So, 100 cubits, it's 208 feet and 4 inches, and 50 cubits is 104 feet and 2 inches. Now, verse 3, opposite the inner court of 20 cubits, and opposite the pavement of the outer court was gallery against gallery in 3 stories. 20 cubits is 41 feet and 8 inches. The rooms in the outer court were also 3 stories high, which with a walkway 10 cubits wide towards the inside and a distance of 1 cubit. The doors open towards the north. This makes it clear that the rooms were on the outer wall, or the 300 cubic square. Okay, so verse 4, in front of the chambers towards the inside was a walk 10 cubits wide at a distance of 1 cubit, and the doors faced north. Okay, so 10 cubits is 20 feet and 10 inches, and 1 cubit is 25 inches, or 2 feet and 1 inches. Okay, verse 42, verse 5, chapter 42. Now the upper chambers were shorter because the galleries took away space from them more than from the lower and middle stories of the building. The third stories, or the top chambers, were shorter than the first and the second stories. They were holy rooms for the priests. Let's see. Verse 6, for they were in 3 stories and did not have pillars like the pillars of the courts before. Therefore the upper level was shortened more than the lower and middle levels from the ground up. And a wall which was outside ran parallel to the chambers at the front of the chambers. Towards the outer court, its length was 50 cubic feet. 50 cubits. 50 cubits is 104 feet and 2 inches. The length of the chambers towards the outer court was 50 cubits, whereas the facing the temple was 100 cubits. 100 cubits is 208 feet and 1 inches, fam. Okay, at the lower chambers was the entrance on the east side, as one goes into them from the outer court. Also, there were chambers in the thickness of the wall of the court towards the east, opposite the separating courtyards and opposite the building. There was a walk in front of them also, and their appearance was like the chambers, which was towards the north. They were as long and as wide as the others, and all their exits and entries were according to plan. The chambers or rooms at all the entrances were the same as those already described in chapter 41. That's what I'm getting at it. Let's go to let's see. Okay, let's proceed. In the correspondence to the doors of the chambers that were facing south, as one enters them, there was a door in front of the wall, the way directly in front of the wall towards the east. Then he said to me, the north chambers and the south chambers, which are opposite the separate courtyards, are the holy chambers, where the priests who approach the Most High, the Lord, who approach the Lord, shall eat the most holy offering. There they shall lay the most holy offerings, the grain offering, the sin offering, the trespass offering, for the place is holy. Let's see, we'll break this down. Let me just finish from 14 of, chapter, verse 14. When the priests enter them, they shall not go out of the holy chambers into the outer court, but they shall leave their garments in which they ministered for they are holy. They shall put on the garments when they approach that which is for the people. These particular rooms were dressing and eating rooms for the priests. The most holy things were the showbread, the portion of the animal sacrifice, and the oil and the wine offering with the sacrifice. The mention of grain offerings, sin offerings, and trespass offerings is like the first proof in these chapters of their eternal observance in the eternal kingdom of Mashiach Yahweh Shai on earth. The priests are to be ministered, of such a sacrifice program. Once again, what I get out of it is that, I'm going to repeat it to you, at least my interpretation is the mention of the grain offering and the sin offering. And trespass offering is the first proof, in these chapters of the eternal observance in the eternal kingdom of Mashiach Yahweh Shai. So, because this is the new temple, saying. So everything is set nice, it's set up nice and beautifully. Glorify your name, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai. It's saying, let's continue. It says here, verse 15, outer dimensions of the temple. Okay, now when he finished measuring the inner temple, he brought me out through the gateway that faced towards the east and measured it all around. He measured the east side with the measuring rod, 500 rods by the measuring rod all around. He measured the north side, 500 rods by the measuring rod all around. He measured the south side, 500 rods by the measuring rod. He came around to the west side and measured 500 rods by measuring rod. A measure of 12 feet 6 inches or 6 cubits. It's a rod. 500 cubits with the measuring reed instead of 500 rods. A few other versions agree with this rendering, but I say that 500. Fuck, I can see. I guess like 500 rods, which would be 6,250 feet, a little more than like a mile square. If rods instead of cubits is the true measurement here, then we can, make a new figure mentioning the measurements of these chapters. The wall around them might enclose landscape gardens, flowers and shrubs. Nothing said about the what occupies such a space. The only reference is to a difference between the common place and the sanctuary, which is definitely like 500 cubic squares of these many measurements. Like I said, it's really like it's a tough chapter, these last couple chapters because of all these measurements and interpreting them. But I'm doing the best that I can, and like I said, fam, where I come up short, understand that I'm just, I'm imperfect man like just any of us, but I welcome the challenge. So the last verse here in this chapter, verse 20, he measured it on the four sides. They had a wall all around, 500 cubits long and 500 wide to separate the holy areas from the common. If the measurements is 500 rods instead of 500 cubits, as it seems to be here, then the reference is to a place separate from the 500 cubic square wall of chapter 40 to 41. The purpose of such a large square of 6,250 feet, besides the one of 1,041 feet and 8 inches, in the previous chapter, would be to have a common place which could be used by the people, common to like the sanctuary itself, the 500 cubit enclosure. It is meant for the common uses of man instead of sacred or divine uses. Now, this means there were like four main squares in the whole picture here. One, the 500 rods, which is 6,250 square, and the wall around it. That's from verse 14 to 20. Then the 500 cubit, this is a 1,041 feet and 8 inches square, or the sanctuary area in its walls. That's from previous chapter 40, like verse 19, 23, and 27. And then you got the 300 cubic squares in its walls, in chapter 40, 27, Then, fourth, you have the 100 cubic squares in this wall, the place containing the altar in the very center of all the squares. That's on, previous chapter, and that's in chapter 40, verse 47. On the west side of the two of these squares were built the temple, that's on chapter 41, verse 10. And the other building for general use, it's a separate place, and that's on chapter 41, verse 12. So, okay, family, that's the end of that. The end of chapter 42. Like I said, it's a tough challenge, because we're breaking down measurements and we're making pictures in our head. For all you brothers that are good at making blueprints, you could run back my video or read this chapter yourself and make the math and draw a blueprint, and see how beautiful that temple would possibly look like. It's mind-boggling, but it's an exhortation in itself. Ezekiel, at this point in the chapter is basically telling us about, this is when our Yahweh Shai is already here with us, and that in itself is an exhortation, Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai being with us here and ordaining us, to be priests and building that new temple, and I hope this was edifying, and I wish everybody good night, and stay the course to the hopeful elect. The Spirit called upon me to do this chapter in Ezekiel, and I strive to finish the book, and that's what we do. Most I be willing and providing tomorrow. We'll chip away again at these scriptures. Continue on Ezekiel or continue where we left off in Jeremiah or in Daniel. I want to get those three books done, like I did the book of Isaiah, because those are some of the cornerstone buildings, of our faith. So on that note, I want to say Shalom.